Hey everyone, in today's episode, I'll get into the best markets to invest in Australia. Now, the reason for doing this is because often a lot of people will say, you only discuss one region, you only discuss another, or what are the best markets in your opinion? Why is it the best market? So in today's episode, that's exactly what I'm going to get into and the reason I do this as well is because often what will happen is people will say, oh, you only mention Melbourne all the time, you only mention Newcastle all the time, you only mention this area all the time. So I'm going to give everyone a bit of an overview of different regions and why they're the best regions in Australia to invest in. So it's going to be pretty simplistic, similar to my last episode, and it's just going to be simply me going through the region, best areas to buy in each of them, and why they are that. But where I want to start this episode is, first of all, with the property clock. Now, obviously, similar to a lot of other clocks I've done and episodes, you can see where everything is at today. So this was my October update. So it's obviously only a bit over a month ago, but I mean, this is kind of where everything's at. So Brisbane and Perth clearly right through their boom stage. Perth in the winner's curse phase. I mean, most of your major eastern, should I say, cities that I like buying are in pretty good areas to buy. I mean, Melbourne, Newcastle, Geelong, they're all off their bottom, but I mean, there's still good areas to buy. Central Coast, Sydney and Wollongong, again, are still good areas to buy. So what I'm going to do today is all those eastern, should I say, cities that I like buying in, I'm literally going to go through it chronologically in the order that I best like buying in, and I'm going to go to each, should I say, region of each city and why that's where you'd want to buy. So I'll start with my number one favourite, and to little surprise, it is Melbourne. Look, Melbourne is my favourite because it's actually historically, and this is not the last 5-10 years or something like that, because I know a lot of people have recency bias of the COVID boom, but historically, and I'm saying 30 plus years, Melbourne's actually been Australia's best performing city in terms of capital growth. So, well, I'll just get into different regions and why I like buying there. So where I want to start is the inner west of Melbourne. So where I'm talking about predominantly Hobson's Bay, Maribyrnong and the eastern part of Brimbank. These areas I really like because there's some areas here that are 9 to 10% plus capital growth. You're still picking up for anywhere from about 750 to 800K right through to about 1.5 million. And there's some of my favorite places, should I say, to buy in pretty much the country, believe it or not. I mean, for example, around 800K, around Sunshine to Braybrook, that area is great. Around the 850K to 1.1, anywhere between Footscray probably, and I'd say Spotswood area, Yarraville, all those suburbs, excellent. I mean, for above 1.2, I'd say Newport, Williamstown, absolutely fantastic opportunities. Those are really good opportunities. Those are probably some of my favorites in the country. Inner city, I mean, you can look, these are all different price points of Melbourne, mind you. Inner city, for example, you can pick up, I mean, Cremorne, Richmond, Clifton Hill, all these sorts of suburbs. I mean, Moonee Ponds, Parkville, like 1.1 to 1.5 million easily. Like these are the equivalent of probably Paddington, Chippendale, and probably Darlinghurst in Sydney. Like all very, very good suburbs. Inner east, I mean, historically some of the richest areas in Australia, long-term, Hawthorn, Mont Albert, Canterbury, Camberwell, Box Hill, all these areas, Ashwood, Ashburton, I mean, all these, Baldwin, all these sorts of areas. I mean, higher budget there, of course, like probably 1.8 to 2 million plus, but long-term excellent performers. Like Box Hill, for example, has done more than 10% growth long-term and it's done nothing for about 8 years. Inner southeast, to give you an idea, I mean, that's sort of, I'd say, Caulfield out east to probably Elwood, the north, and across south of the Yarra River to, should I say, Port Melbourne, those areas, 1.5 million plus. Some of the richest historical areas of the country, some of the, I'd say, best suburbs going from even, I'd say, your middle class to genuinely wealthy neighbourhoods now. Some of the best I can think of in the country really there. You can't think of much better. Like, I mean, to give you an idea, somewhere like Albert Park is the equivalent of like Bellevue Hill in Sydney. And Bellevue Hill is like $10 to $12 million. Albert Park's like 2.5 at the moment. That's an absolute, it should not be 25% or a quarter of the cost of Bellevue Hill. Bellevue Hill should not be 400% more. It should be probably 20 to 25% more, not 400% more. So that's a complete anomaly of what you've got at the moment. Inner north, suburbs around particularly Brunswick East, Brunswick West, those areas, Essendon, Alvington, Thornbury, those sorts of suburbs, excellent buys. 1.1 to 1.4 million, all very good to buy at that. If you want to go cheaper, some of the best gentrifying suburbs in the country, Heidelberg Heights, Heidelberg West, surrounded by Ivanhoe East, Belfield, Heidelberg, Rosanna, those sorts of suburbs. I'd call especially Ivanhoe East upper middle class suburbs. Rosanna, Heidelberg, probably middle class suburbs I'd call them, or maybe something like that. Yes, there's some pockets that are heavy in housing commission, but there's some houses that are like 600 metres down the road from a house that's $2.5 million. So you're never going to find that in any other suburb of the country, bar Heidelberg West and Heidelberg Heights. So those are great opportunities as well. Those are still like 800K, mind you. So great opportunities in that. Bayside, equivalent to probably Sydney's eastern suburbs, to give you an idea. Probably equivalent to the Mermaid Beach to Burleigh Heads of the Gold Coast or something like that. Probably equivalent from City Beach, probably right up to Ocean Reef of Perth. This area, anywhere from about 1.2 right up to $2 million, all good buys. Good suburbs, Moorabbin, Hyatt, all those suburbs like that, Cheltenham, Bentley East, some of those suburbs, picking up for 1, 2, 1, 3, and they're within 10 minutes drive, 10 minutes drive of the beach. Some of the best beaches in all of Melbourne, some of the really best schools in that location as well. Big homes, big, should I say, very nice neighbourhoods, safe neighbourhoods, really, really good. So look, those are some of the best opportunities in Melbourne. I know I ranted along a bit, but I wanted to get through a few of the different regions I really like in Melbourne, so that's some of them. Look, my second area, probably second favourite, best area to buy in Australia is Geelong. Now, I've made this very simple, and I've said within 5Ks or so of the CBD, and I mentioned this previously and I'll mention it again, Geelong is the cheapest area that is good to buy left in Australia long term. It is the very cheapest one that's still good to buy. Now, some people might say Hobart is a good area to buy and it's cheaper, but Hobart has had a very, very, should I say, good boom of recency. It's gone through its downturn, and it's in the early part of its stabilisation phase. So it's not quite an area I'd want to buy yet, but Geelong genuinely is an area I'd want to buy. You're still picking up right down to sub 650K in Geelong in areas I'd still buy. Yes, that's the same in Hobart, but Geelong's genuinely in a more upturn phase of the market than Hobart is. Now, top end, Geelong West, East Geelong, South Geelong, all around 800 to 850K. Now, the very top end of Geelong, and this is especially a market, funny enough, that is a little bit softer than other markets. That's the very top end, around $1 million to 1.1 or so. Newtown, Drumcondra, Rippleside, some of those suburbs, you're picking up the best properties in all of Geelong for 1 to 1.1 million. My favourite place is probably from 600 to about 850K or so. Especially anything sub 700K, especially around 650, excellent. Some of those suburbs literally that are surrounding the CBD, for example, Breakwater, Thompson, Newcombe, Belmont, Herne Hill, North Geelong, Manifold Heights, those sorts of suburbs. Sub 700 grand for that, and it's within a 5-10 minute drive of the CBD, 5 or so Ks from the CBD. You're not going to find much better than that. I will say another one or two. A lot of people have a bad stigma about Whittington, but there's two parts of Whittington. There's one part that's bad and another part that performs perfectly well and there's no issues with. Now, that part as well, to pick it up a sub 650 grand is excellent because it'll perform exactly the same as somewhere like Breakwater, Thompson or Newcombe. And not a lot of people know that. But that's another example of somewhere that's an excellent place to buy. That people generally avoid. And I'll tell you what, Geelong as well, you can buy, your inner sort of city miners' cottages, Edwardian, Victorian style homes, beautiful, go for a lot of money. People love leasing them as well, really good tenancies in that as well. You can buy your brick veneer and tile homes within 5 or so K of the CBD on 500 metres squared as well for around 650 to 700K at the moment. Now, that's not going to last long. As I said to you, that's not going to last long at all. It'll be gone before you know it, but this at the moment is still my favourite, one of my favourite areas to buy in Geelong. Best area to buy, I'd say, probably in the country that's still actually affordable for the most part of most Australian people. So it's not going to last long, but that's my second favourite place to buy at the moment, second best place to buy in Australia. My third favourite spot to buy is Newcastle. And a lot of people get confused about where I say to buy in Newcastle, and that is wards 1 and 2. So for those that don't know, I'll just describe to you where they are. So Ward 1, as you can see here, I've actually showed you the map so you don't get confused, is the city region and the inner west of Newcastle. Ward 2 is kind of the city region to the beaches side of Newcastle. So that's where they are. Mind you, what I'd say here is just be careful with Ward 1. I'm not talking about Stockton and Fern Bay and that kind of area, not across the river, because there's no real bridge that gets you close in. Yes, there's a ferry, but I mean, those areas aren't kind of my favourite areas really to buy in, should I say, Newcastle. But anyway, why Newcastle is good and good areas to buy, for example, is because you've got suburbs here in Newey that, I mean, no word of a lie, are literally, I mean, have similar income demographics to some suburbs comparable in Sydney, but they're literally, no word of a lie, like, I mean, half the price of them. They've got similar demographics and they've got better rental yields. So give you an example, Tyres Hill in Newcastle, which is about 4 or so K away from Newcastle CBD, is, I'd say, something along the lines of similar income demographics to Helston Park in Sydney. Now, Tyres Hill's about 1.1 or 1.2 million at the moment. Helston Park's more than 2.2 at the moment. So it's like half the price of it, has the same income demographics and close to double the yield of it. Now, good areas really to buy here. I mean, lower end, I mean, anything like around Mayfield, Mayfield West, Mayfield East, anywhere like that. Waratah's okay, it's not too bad. I mean, that's you probably low, like your lower mid end of Newcastle. So anywhere from about 900K to about 1.1 million, all good. Your middle sort of suburbs, I'd say Carrington, Mayfield, Tyres Hill, Islington. If you can buy any of those for around the 1.1 million mark, you're doing extremely well. I don't think Maryville you'll get that. I don't know if you'll get that in Tyres Hill anymore, but Islington and Carrington maybe. The more top end, the Hill, Cooks Hill, Merriweather, the Junction, all really, really good places to buy. I mean, I don't know how, should I say, much you're going to get a lot of these for. Like Cooks Hill probably still 1.5 mil, but Merriweather and especially the Junction and the Hill, they're genuinely like $2 million suburbs now. But they're still very good areas to buy. I mean, Newcastle is one of these cities similar to Geelong where it's all fronted by, should I say, that waterfront in there. So, I mean, it's an area that I can see doing well, very much so longer term. These suburbs as well, the thing about them too is, as I said previously in previous episodes, some of these suburbs, for example, especially like your inner western suburbs, have a median household income that is literally, should I say, it still works with the 30% rule in terms of rentability. So they have a, should I say, income level that at the 30% mark is still well above the gross rental you'll get in terms of renting it out. So the general rule of thumb is the 1 to 3, not 1 to 3, it's a third ratio 30% rule, where a property, if it's rented or the mortgage is above 30% of the income, someone's going to struggle to pay. But if it's below, they can pay it easily and afford to live. Now, for example, Mayfield, Maryville, especially in Tyres Hill, two good examples. Incomes of around $2,000 a week, right? Rentals, I mean, still around the $700 to $750 mark. I mean, that's around, should I say 30% or so, but that was back in 2021. The incomes of those now are much higher than that, I can tell you right now. So they will still work with the 30% rule. There's not many places in all of New South Wales that still have that, but those are two suburbs that do. So that's a really good example of some that do. Not only that too, but Newcastle as well is, you have a lot of properties here, the old miners' cottage sort of style homes. You do have some small brick veneer on top, but a lot are your sort of weatherboard miners' cottages, but they're very easy to flip and very easy to make a lot of money and get revals on because they're actually generally very well built and don't need a lot of work. So that's just something to be aware of. Really, really, really good, should I say, homes to buy and flip. You can spend like 50 to 100 grand on these and make, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I saw one recently that had literally about 80,000 spent on it, and it sold for, I think it was something like $740,000 more 1 year later, exactly a year later. So that person's made, like, obviously I'm not including selling costs here, but circa like 650 to 700 grand on that flip that they did. So it's a really good location to do something like that. So, I mean, that's another place that I really like buying there, and that is Newcastle in New South Wales. Look, let's get into another spot, and this is a little bit cheaper, and that is the Central Coast of New South Wales. So the thing about the Central Coast is it's very spread out. It's not all in one location. It's all spread across different locations. So, I mean, you can pick stuff right up down to about 800k or so, sometimes less if you're lucky, but I don't know if that'll still exist by the time this video comes out, but that's still doable around the, should I say, 800k mark or so. I mean, you could go right up to about 1.5 to 2 million at the top end, but really there's a few locations that I think really are the best in terms of all of the Central Coast, and I'll just get into them in some of the should I say, suburbs around that. So first area I want to get into, as you can see in this photo, is Lake Haven to the entrance. So if you go Lake Haven and surrounding suburbs, follow the southern part of Tuggerah Lake especially, and then link around to the entrance. A lot of the suburbs in between there, especially Canmore, Berkeley Vale, Killarney Vale, those sorts of suburbs. I mean, some of the ones surrounding Lake Haven is on the right pocket, right street. I mean, you're picking up some of those for like 800k, Killarney and Berkeley Vale for like 900, 950. I mean, to give you an idea, as I've said previously, generally your most expensive suburbs are right between where the jobs are and where the lifestyle areas and the water is. So if you look at Sydney, like Mossman's one of them, right between Manly and the CBD. Bellevue Hill's another, right between Bondi and the CBD. If you look at Melbourne, I mean, Albert Park, I mean, Chirac, Kooyong, right between Brighton Beach and the CBD. If you look at even Perth, like Dalkeith, Peppermint Grove, right between City Beach, Cottesloe and the CBD. Really good example. You could say Brisbane as well. I mean, you know, the CBD and maybe let's say the river, like New Farm, Hawthorn, Bulimba. I mean, all of those suburbs are really good. Tenerife, Hamilton, all really good examples of some as well. Killarney, Berkeley Vale, exactly those suburbs. Long Jetty as well. Other good areas, Gosford to Terrigal. East Gosford's a great one to buy, around $1 million or so. I mean, if you can pick up anything around Terrigal, as well for I mean, even like around or under 1.5, it's excellent. Vinyl area, probably Wamberal, Avoca, surrounds, so the surrounding suburbs of them as well. So your Foresters Beach, Wamberal, Avoca, North Avoca, those kinds of suburbs, Copacabana, in the right street of those suburbs though, because there are sort of parts towards the back of it that pardon me, do have bushfire overlays all over them. Not only bushfire overlays, but it's just the wrong part, wrong street, so they don't go for as much. But some idiot agents still list things in good streets close to the median price, and I just don't know how they do that, but they do. So, I mean, you do pick up good deals in those sorts of places as well. But I mean, as I said, for the Central Coast, I mean, you're picking up stuff still here well under 1.5 million. You've got the 5% deposit scheme that's going to help you out as well. A lot of the people from Northern Sydney are moving here as well, particularly from the North Shore and Northern Beaches. You also got a lot of people that are even developers and investors that are buying up here, and they're flipping homes and they're genuinely starting to gentrify streets. So to give you an example, there's a street in Killarney Vale that I know of, and there's been about 5 new builds within, I'd say about 2 blocks or so within about the last 12 to 18 months. And there was homes selling there for, I mean, probably 2 years ago for in the late 7s, early 8s. There's homes that are now selling for like $1.8 million plus. So these are things that are going to continue to happen. Like, I mean, a lot of parts of, should I say, the Central Coast really is very similar to, I'd say, parts of probably the northern beaches of Sydney maybe 20 years ago or so. So expect that to continue. Look, I'm expecting in 20 years pretty much Sydney the whole way to Newcastle, if you surround the water, front sort of suburbs there, every single bit one of those to have a suburb, and probably a lot of it to all be built. So these existing estates on these larger lots are very much so, I'd say, commodities. And in the future, those land lots as well are only going to become more and more in demand. and you'll find that they'll start to sell like a lot of the northern beaches in Sydney in the coming years. Don't be surprised if you see whole streets that are flipped and you don't see a single one that's an older home that goes for a reasonable price anymore. That is going to happen. So that's another area that I really like to buy in at the moment in the Central Coast. Let's get into another area I really like to buy in at the moment. Funny enough, it is actually Sydney. So yes, I grew up here. Yes, I mean, it's probably my favourite city in the world. But I mean, Sydney, funny enough, hasn't actually grown really all that much since probably I'd say about 2018, 2019. Similar to Melbourne. Yes, it has done reasonably well, better than Melbourne. It's probably only done in most parts somewhere between 20 to 40%, maybe 45 in some areas. For the most part, that's not all areas, it's the most part. Now, yes, there are outliers like Bellevue Hill that have literally doubled in that time, but that's a complete suburb that you don't want to compare to the general Sydney suburbs. So, I mean, let's get into some areas just here that are really good opportunities in Sydney. So, Lower North Shore, probably I think the most underpriced, that in the inner west of Sydney especially at the moment. Look, the suburbs yes, it's a higher budget. You're looking at minimum probably 3 to 4 million plus. But I mean, the suburbs like Neutral Bay, that have done almost nothing for like 5 to 7 years in some parts and have done historically like 9.8% capital growth. Wollstonecroft, Waverton, suburbs like that, really good. Cammeray is another one, very underpriced. Narrabeen, all those sorts of areas, really, really good. Yes, $3 to $4 million budget, but for that area and what you're getting, compare that to the eastern suburbs. The comparable suburbs probably Woollahra, and it's like $5.5, $6 million to give you an idea. So that's where we're at kind of with that. I know I have the eastern suburbs, but I want to go to the inner west first. Inner West, there's some areas, particularly of the affluent Inner West, that haven't done very well recently. So particularly the Rozelle Balmain Peninsula. So the peninsula really is Balmain Road right up past Victoria Road. So it's particularly Rozelle, Balmain East, Birchgrove. Some of those, 2.5, 3 million. It sounds like a lot of money, and it is, don't get me wrong, for the average person, but for Sydney, it's very underpriced. You go straight across the bay there and look at Greenwich, Longaville, some of those suburbs like that, some of them like $5 to $6 million to give you an idea. And I'd argue, yes, they're not the same sort of estates on there, but I'd argue they're better located than some of these suburbs. Some people might not like me saying that, but it's just the truth. So those are good examples. Leichhardt's another really good one, sub 2 mil, unbelievably cheap. That won't last long. Petersham, Stanmore, Lewisham, all really good as well. Marrickville too, all really well priced. Haven't done that much either. Again, haven't really done that much. Getting to the eastern suburbs. Now, I'm not talking about your very top end of the eastern suburbs. Bellevue Hill has done incredibly well over recency. So has Vaucluse. I actually think Rose Bay is underpriced and it sounds ridiculous. But if you're getting on the, harbourfront side of Rose Bay, close to the harbour, I think it's quite underpriced. North Bondi as well, underpriced. Where the best opportunities lie, though, I think is in the mid to lower end of the eastern suburbs. So anywhere from sort of South Coogee right through about Malabar, Matraville. Those sorts of suburbs are particularly Kingsford, Pagewood, Matraville, Malabar, Maroubra, those areas, there's still homes on decent lots, some even ones that you can build duplexes on, believe it or not, for in the threes. I've seen them even sub 3 before, like towards 2.5, which is incredible. But that's on the eastern suburbs peninsula to give you an idea. So what you're having now at the moment is a spillover effect in the east as well. So I have a friend that lives in Kingsford. And it's not on the Coogee side. He lives on the Pagewood side, the kind of East Lake side of Kingsford. And and just down the road from him, there was a home sold for $6.2 million, and it was built for a family from Dover who wanted to buy from their kids because they couldn't afford to buy in Dover for their kids. So these are great examples of spillover effect areas in the eastern suburbs. So that's another area. Sutherland Shire, St. George, like Rockdale, Cogra, Bexley, all those areas, excellent. Very well located. Arncliffe, Banksia as well. On the train line, largely affected by a lot of growth. It's very scarce land. Shire, anywhere between Sutherland and especially Caringbah, very underpriced. I'd say they're the closest, cheapest beachy suburbs of Australia at the moment, in Sydney at the moment. If that was in the northern beaches or the eastern suburbs, that would be $3 or $4 million. A comparable suburb probably to Caringbah would probably be somewhere like Balgowlah in the northern beaches. That's like $3 million. Caringbah is still about 1.8 to 2. That's a really good example somewhere you can buy. Anything under 2 in those areas that are in the right part of the Shire, very, very good buys. Canterbury, Bankstown, I'm not really talking about specifically the Bankstown region. I'm more talking about the Canterbury region, particularly Canterbury, Campsie, Belmore, Lakemba, Wiley Park. Those suburbs, because of the transport-orientated plan, pretty much all of them being largely affected by it, particularly Lakemba, Belmore and Campsie. You're going to find so much more development is going to happen here, and the land is going to become even more scarce. Now, the thing about these suburbs is as well, it's a very common thing in the, should I say, I grew up in this area to give you an idea. So in especially the ethnic sort of community, now these 3 suburbs are all very different themselves. So Campsie is very much so more so Asian, I'd say Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, a lot of them live there. Belmore's a lot of sort of Greeks and Italians and some Lebanese. Lakemba's quite a lot of Lebanese and, should I say, subcontinent and Middle Easterners that live there. Now, all of these communities have one thing in common. They don't like selling their homes. They will hold on to it forever if they need to. So don't expect much stock to come in. If it does, they're going to sell it for an absolute premium to a developer. That's what's going to happen there. So that's the other area I want to mention. Finally, Sydney's northern beaches. Now, I'm specifically talking about the southern part of the northern beaches, so particularly Collaroy south of the northern beaches. The reason this area is good is because you still have the employment hubs, reasonable commutability to the CBD. So you got buses, for example, like the B line, the 199, those other buses that do go into, should I say, the CBD that are reasonable. So 40 minutes to an hour. If you're in the lower end, it's even better, but that's reasonable. You can get ones to Chatswood and North Sydney in probably half an hour or so. So still pretty good. Brookvale's another employment hub. The suburbs I particularly mentioned are around, should I say, the low to medium density housing plan. So you could probably include Mona Vale in it, but it's not my favourite. But I mean, particularly, I'd say the DY, Cromer, Narrowena, particularly the eastern side of Cromer and Narrowena. Those suburbs are going to be right next to the DY CBD and are very commutable to everywhere in the northern beaches and the North Shore and the CBD as well. So those are very good. North Manly, Balgowlah, excellent. Fairlight, excellent. I mean, you're still picking up some of these for like 2.2 to 2.5 mil. Yes, Balgowlah and Fairlight are like 3, but for what you're getting, it's very cheap. Like, again, a comparable suburb to these in sort of the east. It's not comparable to east, but I'd say lower east is probably like Coogee. Or somewhere even like Kingswood, and they're I'd say significantly more expensive, even Clovelly. So, I mean, those are really good options, and they're just going to get more expensive. Like, there's no land in these suburbs left either. And they're also, what I'd say too, is very greeny council and areas. So these are areas where I'm telling you right now, they're not going to build anything more. There'll be every objection group to do anything in these areas should I say, of any trees or any land. So it's just going to become higher and higher density in a lot of these areas. And what's going to happen there is, yes, it's going to lose, I hate to say this to beaches locals, it'll lose a little of the bit of the beach's charm in the sense of that. But what you're going to see here is prices will, in terms of land value, will skyrocket because of what's going on here. So look, that's my update for Sydney. Now look, to close out, it'll be a pretty quick one. It is Wollongong that I want to get into. So look, I'm kind of including Wollongong and Shell Harbour here, but really what's happened here lately is particularly southern Wollongong and Shell Harbour has got fairly expensive. Like, I mean, I was saying previously, and it's still decent buys if you know what to do. You got someone like me looking for you. But, I mean, for example, you had Port Kembla selling around 800, 850. That's hard to find at the moment. You had, I mean, neighbouring suburbs to Shell Harbour and Shell Cove, like you were Rilla, Barak Heights, Mount Regal, those sorts of suburbs too, selling for, I mean, I'd say your 750 to 800K, those are all good buys, all going for more now. You had your Mangerton, Mount St Thomas, Coniston selling for, I mean, sub $1 million towards 900 grand. They're all well over $1 million now, which is annoying. So they're not as good of a buy, but where good opportunities still are at is actually the suburbs in between both Thirroul and the CBD. So this is an example one in this photo. You can see here, this is Fairy Meadow. That's just Fairy Meadow Beach on a pumping day. I wish I was surfing that right now. But anyway, this is a good example of a suburb between there. So it's a suburbs, for example, like your Mount Ousley, North Wollongong, Fairy Meadow, Corrimal, East Corrimal, Taronji, Woonona, all those sorts of suburbs, Tarrawanna, Bulli, all those sorts of suburbs in there. Excellent buys. Even Bellambi, the right part of Bellambi is so underpriced because that public housing will be sold one day. You can still pick up like Fairy Meadow, Mount Ousley and those sorts of suburbs for like 1.1 to 1.3 million bucks. And you're like, like literally a bike ride to the beach, bike ride into the CBD, and in an excellent area, good schools, good lifestyle, close to a lot of jobs, close to North Wollongong Station or Thirroul Station if you're a little bit further north, straight in the CBD. They're going to be affected by the low to medium density housing rise code and also the transport orientated plan, particularly Corrimal, North Wollongong Stations, Thirroul as well. So land is scarce, and what makes it so scarce too is the Wollongong Illawarra escarpment. So what the escarpment is it's really the Great Dividing Range kind of start, bottom, eastern side of it. It's a hill that goes, or should I say range that goes straight up. You can't build on it. So there's no more land to build. It's just run out of land, Wollongong. So these areas are going to do very well. And what's happening now is it's very similar to the Shire probably 5 years ago. You're starting to get a lot of duplexes being built down this way. They're selling for massive sums of money. So there's duplexes selling for like $1.52 million, no problem there. And people happily buying them because they're new, right next to the beach. So, if you could pick up something on some land and wanted to do a development down here, I can't see how you're losing money on something like that. Yes, you need to consider the construction costs, but incredible deals down here for that kind of money. So, that's really Wollongong. And I went to Wollongong Uni, so I know it back to front. It's probably one of my favourite places in the world, to be honest. It's so beautiful. It's just such a nice area to live. And it doesn't have the same income and demographics sort of industry as, should I say, Newcastle or probably Geelong, but it's starting to develop and you're getting high rises going like no tomorrow in Wollongong. A lot of people that I've actually even went to uni with have actually started to work in professional industries back in Wollongong now. So that wasn't a thing beforehand, but that is starting to become a thing now. So, you can't really go wrong when something like that is happening. It's doing very well, and I'm expecting it to continue to happen. That's really Wollongong. If you're someone even who wants to buy an owner-occupier and wants to live in a great area by the seaside, I can't think of many better places in the world that are still genuinely somewhat affordable than Wollongong, particularly in the area I'm talking about, the northern suburbs of the CBD. Just beautiful, very safe, great areas. Safe apart from a small part of Bellambi and Fern Hill, mind you, but great areas, good for a flip as well. So look, that's my summary of Wollongong, and look, that is my summary of pretty much my best areas to buy in all of Australia at the moment. Now look, I'm sorry if I didn't do any of the West, I'm sorry if I didn't do Darwin or anywhere else, but I'm an objective person. I tell you what I buy, and I'm just straight to the point. Now if you're someone who wants to buy in any of these locations that I recommend, to give you an idea, I actually pretty much would own in all of these locations, mind you, so I know them back to front. Now, if you're someone who's serious about buying any of these and you want to either buy a good investment property or build a portfolio by doing so, or you want to just buy a home to live in a great location, I strongly suggest you reach out to me via www.compoundinvest.com.au/inquire. Now, what happens here is you block a time out in your email calendar and mine of half an hour. I give you a phone call and we discuss what you want to do. I'll give you some options. We formulate a strategy from there. Now, the reason this is so important, I'd say even for people who aren't serious right now, might have your hesitations about using a buyer's agent or just want to chat, I still strongly suggest you reach out, because if you don't understand these suburbs back to front like I do, you're making a mistake because you're stuffing up the strategy in the first place. Now, there's a massive difference between a bad part of the suburb and a good. You might have a suburb that averages 8.5%. There'll be pockets that do 7% growth, and there'll be pockets that do 10, which makes the average of 8.5. The key is buying the pocket that does 10%. Now, if you don't have 10,000 hours worth of, knowledge in these areas, you're probably going to stuff it up unless you get very lucky. And I don't think making a decision of, let's say, $500K to $1 million plus is a thing you should leave to luck and chance. But anyway, again, anyone serious, I strongly suggest you reach out. I'm probably the most caring buyer's agent you'll meet. www.compoundinvest.com.au/inquire. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Thanks, guys.